Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, sir.
How did the mock CVA go? I learned it was excellent, right?
Excellent.
It was good,
Wow.
right?
Not really, sir.
Laptop.
It was manager.
Okay. It's fine. I think you people are doing the blind man touching of elephant thing. So the person who touch the tail will tell me that an elephant is like a rope. But whatever happens, I think it's in the past. You have to use the mock to envisage what the real thing will look like. So that calls for better preparation. And you need to guide your loins and be ready for the real deal. This one is just like testing the microphone. So, okay. I think we've got to start tonight. What do you think? We have to start, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Doc.
Tell me where I stopped. What did I do last with you?
You did.
Somebody should tell me what I did last with you on corporate finance.
That was investment appraiser.
Is that where what we did or where I'm going to start from?
Is that? No.
Okay. So I understand that we stopped at investment appraisal, right?
Yes, sir.
We did advance some reasons for investment appraisal. I want 3 people to tell us why it is necessary to appraise investment. Why is it necessary to appraise investment?
To determine the risk associated with investment.
To determine the risk associated with the investment. Who just spoke?
David Esonchi. David Ugu.
Okay. Thank you. Who's up next? Kingsley.
Doc, I wasn't in the last class, sir.
Where did we send you? Kingsley.
Yes, Doc.
Did we send you on an errand?
Something came up that night, so I couldn't join.
All right, it's fine. If I please.
Okay, Doc, to check to evaluate the risk and know which one to put our head into, and as well check the return.
Okay, there's the risk return relationship. Is that Dr. Joshua? All right. For tonight, we're able to look at a few things that day. We even spoke about investors' disposition. I think the last thing I discussed it in that class was
Types of investor.
that's the risk investors' attitude to risk. I remember.
Yes.
We spoke about those who love risk, those who hate risk. and all that. And I believe that I remember that I rounded off that class by telling that today we'll be looking at methods of essentially there are two appraisal techniques, or two sets of appraisal techniques. So let's try and break them into two. On one hand, we have discounting technique. And then on the other hand, we have the non-discounting technique. All right. Now, under the discounting technique, we have the NPV, that's the net present value method. Net present value method. And non-discounting, we have the payback period method. Payback period. And here we have profitability index. Then under the have the accounting. Please control the noise in your background. Accounting rate of return. It's ARR. ARR. Then under here we have the internal rate of return as IRR. This is MPV. NPV. Then this is PI. That's profitability index. And this is IRR. And then we even have what we call the discounted payback. Discounted payback method. Okay. Now let's give attention to this this type of let's give attention to these appraisal techniques. I'm teaching online class. I did class, but I'm looking at what you sent me. Let's chat. Chatting will be better for me. I'll reply you now. Okay, so I've been able to name the various classifications. We have the discounting and the non-discounting techniques. Now, from the last class I had with you, you should be able to know the difference between the two. Now, the discounting techniques provides for the time value of money. While the non-discounting techniques are based on raw cash flow or accounting profit. They are based on raw cash flow or what? Accounting profit. Can you still hear me? Can you
Yes,
still
sir.
hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Yes, sir.
so it's based on, the first one is based on, sorry, makes provision for the time value of money. You remember I taught you, that's why we had to do time value of money first. Then we looked at discounting and compounding. We just ended that. You know, to be able to make provision for time value of money, it means the cash flows will have to be discounted. Do you understand me? So instead of using raw cash flow, you discount the cash flow. How do you discount it? You apply the necessary discount factor. Like if it is in 5 years, you now say, what would this money be today if I were to bring 5 years down to today? So you bring to present the future value of the expected cash flow. That's what the discounting techniques does. The discounting techniques use discounted cash flow by making provision for what? For time value of what? Money. Makes provision for time value of money. But the non-discounting techniques just takes the raw cash flow. You know, it's like an Alaba international market trader or who say market trader who says money is coming in, even if it is going to come in 20 years, 1 naira then will be 1 naira now. You know, but if you are financially literate, you know, it's one thing to be literate academically. It's another thing to also be financially literate. There are some educated financial illiterates everywhere. You know, they don't understand the workings of money, you know, even though they are educated. Like the lawyers will tell us that though you are educated, or that you are not learned. So they say, well, we can tell someone that though you are educated, you're not financially literate because you don't understand the workings of money. You just take money the way it is. But if you are financially literate, you will know that once time passes, the value of money decays, that the value of money decays with time. So when you are discounting, when you are pricing investment, you can use the discounting technique, which makes provision for the time value of what? Money. So that is what actually differentiates the two. While this one uses discounted cash flow, this one uses what? Discounted cash flow. Uses discounted cash flow. This other one uses what? Raw cash flow. So that's just the difference. The non-discounting technique employs what? Raw cash flow. While the discounting techniques employs what? Discounted cash flow. Do I still have your attention? I usually prefer having
Yes,
some of you unmuting yourself so that at least somebody will be telling me yes when I ask. Please, if your background is noisy, mute yourself. If your background is not noisy, unmute yourself so that I can be hearing people. You know, it's challenging to teach an imaginary audience. Okay. Now, having said that, we'll get down to business. I will do non-discounting techniques first. So in looking at non-discounting technique, our first method of interest would be payback period. Now, payback period is like the commonest appraisal technique. Now, what is the payback period? The payback period is the number of, or the period it will take the inflow from an investment to liquidate its initial outlay. Payback is the period it takes an inflow or takes the inflow from an investment to liquidate its initial outlay. Just please give me 30 seconds. Sorry, I'm back. The period it takes the inflow from an investment to liquidate its initial outlay. Now, I've said two things here that you should give attention. What's the initial outlay? Initial outlay means the money entrusted or the money thrust into the investment. Then the inflow here refers to what? To the returns. The returns. And in this circumstance, because we are looking at non-discounting technique, the inflow here has to be what? Is it discounted cash flow or raw cash flow?
Raw cash flow.
So it's raw cash flow now. So we are looking, so the payback period is one of the commonest. Like if somebody wants to buy bus and give out another person on hire purchase, it will ask you how much will you be bringing every week? Say 2 naira. Then he will check, if I'm collecting 2 naira every week, how many weeks will it take the 2 naira to pay me back my money? The money I'm putting in, you know? That is essentially talking about what? Payback period. So the payback period is the period it takes the inflow from an investment to liquidate its initial. The first one is where there is even cash flow. When there is even what? Cash flow. In other words, the same amount is expected over a period of what? Time. Then the second one is when there is uneven cash flow. Payback for even cash flow and payback for uneven what? Cash flow. Now, if the amount of money that is coming in is going to be the same, more like an annuity, you know, it's an even cash flow. So payback to generate a formula for payback period. For an even cash flow, payback period is equal to one period inflow, initial outlay over one period. Did you get that? In other words, if the cash flow is going to be even, that means it is the same cash flow. That means periodic 1,000 every week, or the person is going to be giving me 10,000 every month. That means now if it is an even cash flow, the payback period will be initial outlay divided by what? One period what? Return inflow. Take for example, let's say bought a keke na pep. Is to be making 10,000 naira every week to pay back the sum 700,000 to how much was invested? 700,000 is the initial outlay, right? Is what? Is the one payment is going on will be what? 10,000. So to find the payback, this my formula comes into play. And the payback is the initial outlay is 700,000, while the 10,000 will be the payback period.
70.
Because this is weekly, right? The translates to how many years?
Like 1.52.
52.
$1.3 years. 1.34 years.
1 weeks in months. 16 is 4 months. So 1 year, 4 months, and 2 weeks. That's the payback period. The payback period is 1 year, 4 months, and 2 weeks. All right, so that's the first one. Now the second scenario is where we have an uneven what? Cash flow. Assuming let's look at if there's an uneven cash flow, you're supposed to be deducting the inflow until when the initial outlay becomes 0. And the point where it becomes 0, you will now check the periods that have gone by, and that becomes the payback period. For uneven cash flow, we don't have a formula for uneven cash flow. Do you get the point now? We don't have a formula for uneven cash flow. All right, so let me create, and there are also 2 likely scenarios under uneven cash flow. The first scenario is when the initial outlay is fully paid back at the end of a period. Then the second scenario is when the flow doesn't pay back at the end of a period, but cuts into another period, where you have to find a fraction of the period that will be added to the period where it is fully paid back. Now let's look at that scenario here. Now ABC invested 10 million naira in a project, with the following streams of cash flow, or the following expected stream of cash flows, expected streams of cash flow. So we would say year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. Now year 1 brought in 2 million. Year 2 brought in 3 million. Year 3 brought in 5 million. Then year 4 brought in 4 million. Then year 5 brought in 6 million. Then the question now is, what is the payback period? Now, what we'll do is we'll begin to add up. The first year paid back what? 2 million. And we are left with what?
8 million.
8 million.
8 million.
8 million. The second year paid back what? 3 million. And we are left with what?
5
5 million.
5 million.
Then at the third year, it fully what? Paid back. So the answer is that the payback period is
3 years.
3 years. But this looks simplistic and may hardly be a real life situation. So who told year 3 that the balance is 5 million, that it must produce 5 million to be able to fully pay what back? You understand what I'm saying? So, but the real thing could be, let's assume, now let's continue with this example to create scenario 2. We'll continue with this example, but then instead of having, now this is scenario 2. Now, instead of having 5 million year 3, we have 8 million. All right. Now, what has happened here? What has happened here is that the full amount we got in year 3, paid back fully, and there's a left what over. And then what we are actually going to look for is the fraction of the year at which the initial outlay was fully paid back. The fraction of the year at which the initial outlay was fully paid back. Can Obianuju help us? Obianuju, help us and control the noise coming from your background, or I'll mute you. Obianuju, please.
Okay, sir.
All right. Now, where we are, I hope you're getting what I'm saying. Now, how many of you are following what I'm saying? In the third year, we expect that 5 million will come into fully pay back. But what we got there, which is more like a real life situation, is 8 million. Now, in the light of that, it means year 1, year 2 brought in 5 million, and then year 3 brought in 8 million. And all we require from year 3 is what?
It's 5 million.
5 million. Then what we are going to do is to find the fraction of the year that brought in the 5 million. So payback will be equal to, our payback period will be equal to 2 plus 2 plus what we actually need there will be 5 million out of 8 million. That's plus into
times 12.
5 million out of 8 million. Then we are left with the option of putting it either in months or in weeks or in days. Now let's try putting it in weeks. That will be multiplied by what? 12. Let's put it in months rather. And this will be multiplied by 12 over what? Over 1. So what will be our payback period? Can I have the answer?
Our payback period will be
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Please, we did not add the year 2, 3 million. We just jumped from year 1 to year 3.
No. What I did, we are looking for the payback now. 1 year, year 1 brought 2 million. Year 2 brought 3 million. So this is the 2 you have here is year 2. It's not the million.
so we have
I hope, sorry, I hope you know what wait. I hope you know what we are looking for. Who asked that
Yes,
question?
I know. Payback period, payback period of the 10 million that was invested.
Now, see, we are not looking for the millions. We are interested in the number of years. So that means year 1 did not pay back fully. Year 2 did not pay back fully. These 2 here is 2. That's 2 years.
Okay.
So, 2 years, then plus a fraction of the 3rd year. We are trying to get a fraction of the 3rd year expressed in months. That's why you have 12 over 1 year, 12 months in 1 year. So 12 divided by, okay. What do you have there? Can I have the answer?
7.5.
Did you say 7.5?
That's 2 years, 7 months, and 2 weeks.
2 years, 7 months, and 2 weeks. So let's express it in days. It will be easier for us. We take 365. That's 365. Divided by 8 multiplied by 5.
So
228 days divided by okay, 228 days divided by let's take a 30 days. Okay, it's 7.6. Okay, 7.5 is good. We're almost at whether in days or in months. I hope you know we are the same points.
Yes, sir.
Are you aware? If you divide the answer by 30, guys, that's 30 days per month, you will have 7.6. Then if we work with months, that's 12, we have 7.5. So it's around the same periphery, which means it is going to be something like 2 years. The answer will be 2 years.
7 months.
2 years, 7 months, and what? 2 weeks. That's our payback period. So I've given you 3 scenarios under the calculation of what? Payback period. Number 1, when is equal. And the second one, when it is what? Uneven flow, the end of a given period. Then the third, uneven flow, but we did not have the full payback at the end of a particular period, requiring us to find a fraction of the month following, or sort of the year following, under which the payback actually took place. So these are the three scenarios under payback period. And then the next thing here is, how do we make the decision? Decision criteria in using payback. You know, the last time we spoke, remember I told you something about project relationship. How many of you can still remember? When projects are, I gave you 3 examples or 3 scenarios. What are they?
Mutually exclusive project, mutually dependent projects, and independent
or unrelated.
Good. Mutually exclusive projects. We have mutually dependent projects, and then we have unrelated projects. Now I want you to understand that very well, because that can be a twist in a question. Now, in taking decision using payback, one, are you looking at an independent project? A stream of projects, that's 2. And then the third one, are you looking at mutually dependent projects? Mutually exclusive projects. Okay. Now let's try and play around with these things. Let's play around with them. Now, in the first one, if you are looking at an independent project, an organization may have what we call a hurdle rate. A hurdle, don't forget this. They may have an organization can say, as a matter of deliberate policy, if any project has payback that is greater than 3 years, we are not going to undertake it. The 3 years becomes what? A hurdle rate. Are you following me?
Yes, sir.
Please, can you still hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
For
Yes,
me,
sir,
this
we
is
can
what
hear you,
really
sir.
matters. This is what differentiates you from just a mere calculator of figures. You know, this is where you actually make the decisions as a manager. You know, when you are looking at an independent project and there's a hurdle rate, it means there's a preset payback that every project must cross before it can be undertaken. Now, let's assume in the example we have above that the organization's hurdle rate is 3 years. If the organization's hurdle rate is what? 3 years. That means some projects will fail. Like the first project has the, okay, the first project will pass because it's under 1 year, right? Now the second project is 3 years. So we can say, okay, it won't pass. And then the third one is 2 years, 7 months, and 2 weeks. It will pass. So if you're looking at an independent project, one of the likely scenarios is that the organization has set a hurdle rate, and then if the payback crosses the hurdle rate, the project will qualify. If it fails to cross the hurdle rate, the project will not qualify. That's one. Then the second scenario is when we have a stream of projects. If you have a stream of projects and then there is a limiting factor, are you listening to me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
You have a stream of project and there's a limiting factor. Let's assume that an organization has 100 million naira budget to undertake like as many projects as 100 million naira will be able to carry. Then and you have streams of projects with their respective payback period. And you know that you will continue adding this project once the 100 million naira is reached. Any other project cannot come in. Are you following me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Then that will mean you begin to arrange them in their order of what? Payback. So the one that has the smallest payback comes first, followed by the one that has the second smallest, until you get to a point where the 100 million naira is fully exhausted and there's no room to take any other project. And then the other ones will now be left out. That's when there's a limiting factor. Then the second one is when there is no limiting factor. The organization can do anything. But you are now asked to rank the project according to their payback. The simple issue here will be the smaller the payback, the more acceptable. The higher the payback, the less acceptable. So that's the point. I don't know whether I'm still with you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you are, sir.
Any question thus far before I continue? All right, so I am moving over to 3 and 4. I want to exemplify 3 and 4. Now let's assume an organization is looking at 4 projects, which are projects A. Okay, let me just create a small table. Now we have projects and we have the payback period. And then projects A, B, C, and D. Then project A has a payback of 50. That's okay, let's say 5 years. And then project B has a payback of 2 years. And then project C has a payback of 3 years. And project D has a payback of 3.5 years. Now that's the nature of the project. And then you are asked to select 2 or select 3 projects to be undertaken. If that's scenario A, scenario A is that B and A are mutually dependent. B and A are mutually dependent. Then scenario B is that B and C are mutually exclusive. Now this can be a simple question, very simple question, but can throw somebody off balance. I don't know who is doing this and I don't like it. Whoever is generating that noise, I don't like it. Okay, now we have this. Let's address this question. The first scenario is if project B and A. Okay, now let's arrange this project without recourse to this. That means let's just create, let's insert a column to the right. Now, if we are to arrange this project ranking, now if we are to rank this project, which one should come first? Which one will be number one?
Project B.
Project B will be our first, followed by
Project C.
Project
project
C.
C will be our second, followed by
Project D.
D.
project D will be our third, and then the last one will be what?
Project A.
A. Now that's the ranking. Normal, this should be the ranking. But we have conditions. The first condition is that project B and A are mutually what? Dependent. Right? Now, it means if they are mutually dependent, it means taking B will instantly mean taking what? A.
A.
Because A and B, because B cannot be taken without what? A.
A.
That is what it means to be mutually what? Dependent. You know, this
Dependent.
invariably, it will alter the ranking. You know, it will alter the ranking.
Yes,
Are
it
you
will.
aware?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Let's insert another column and then see the ranking with A and B as what? Mutually exclusive, mutually dependent. The ranking with A and B as mutually what? Dependent. Now the ranking will now be, firstly, we will take what? We will take B, and then taking B will invariably mean taking what? A, because we cannot take B without A. So our third project will now be what? Will now be C, and while our last project will now be what? Will now be D. Now you see the issue is, even though D has 3.5 years, we will not abandon what? A, because A and B and A are mutually what? Dependent. So that is what it means here. Then for the next scenario where B and C are mutually exclusive, we are going to the ranking with B and C as what? Mutually what? Exclusive. Now, our first project will be what? Will remain B, right?
Yes.
So our number one will remain what? B.
B.
Now, because our number two should have been what?
C.
C.
Our number two should have been what? C.
C.
C. Yes.
But we will not take C. We will invariably reject what? C. Why? Because
two of them can't go.
two of them can't what? Go. So we'll reject C because B and C are mutually what? Exclusive. Somebody may ask me, why did we not choose C instead of B? We cannot choose C because B has a smaller payback than what? Than than C. That means B qualifies, is more qualified than C in terms of their what? Payback. So because of the smallness of B's payback, we choose B, and then choosing B will mean rejecting what? C, because
C.
they are what? Mutually exclusive. So
Exclusive.
then our number 3 will now, our number 2 will now be D. So D becomes our second, while A becomes our what? Our third.
What?
You see, project relationship can alter the choices you make. It can just alter it. So that's why you must be mindful of this. You must be mindful of this. So these are the decision, they are the decision criteria in using what? In using payback. You know, it's not just enough to know how to calculate payback. It's also very, very important for you to know how to draw conclusions on the basis of project relationship, and also how it concerns the use of payback what period. Any question thus far?
Okay, Doc. My question is on the A, being that B and A are mutually dependent. I was thinking
Yes.
that in ranking them, 2 of them will be ranked at first, not first and second.
Well, we are asked to pick 3 projects. Select 3 projects to be undertaken.
Okay.
We are asked to select 3 projects.
Okay.
That means they are numbered like in their uniqueness, you understand? So following the tone of the question, I get what you're saying, that if they are mutually dependent, it means that 2 has become 1. Am I correct?
Yes, Doc.
So select 3 projects. If you make the 2 1, you will end up selecting only 2 projects.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know where I get my arguments. So
Yeah, I do.
I understand your. Look at the tone of the question.
Okay.
Any other question?
Hello, sir.
I can hear you.
Okay, so we're now saying that we're going to reject project C. Project C will not be executed.
Yes. Project C is impracticable for you to execute project what C. If the B and C are mutually exclusive, a simple question is, when you toss a fair coin, can you get a head and a tail at the same time?
No.
No.
Getting a head and a tail when you toss a fair coin illustrates a mutually exclusive event. Can you be first and last at the same time?
No.
Only God is first and last.
Only you.
Yeah.
Only
God is first and last.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so it's impracticable. Executing the 2 projects is an impossible case. So, and that's what it means to be when you throw a fair die, getting a 6 and a 3 cannot happen. Rather, it's a case of a 6 or a 3. It's a case of a head or a tail in a coin. Is a head or a tail, not and a tail. So when a coin is a fair coin is tossed once, it's either you get a head or you get a what? A tail. You can't get a head and a tail, except you toss the coin twice. Okay, so okay.
Let's assume that we are being asked in the real scenario, we are being asked the priority as per which we're going to choose this project. Are we going to use as per mutually exclusive now? Because as per mutually exclusive, we note B is always number one priority. D is now the second, and A comes to the third. But in mutually dependent, B is one, A is second, and D should be the fourth, the third as per se now. So if you are saying, okay, choose as per priority now, they want to start first. Which one are we going to take, sir?
Now, priority will now be a case of the circumstances surrounding the project. You know, that's the managerial issues surrounding the project. You know, which I think the whole information may not be available here, but we're just looking at, we are making this decision to the tone of the information available to us. Assuming we have more information, would have been able to make more of these decisions you're asking us to make. All right, so now I'd like us to look at what are the benefits, what are the advantages of using a payback period as appraisal technique. The advantages. One of the commonest advantages is its simplicity. The number two is its ease of application. Then another one is its popularity. And another one is that it's, okay, I've already spoken about, because of its simplicity, even those who don't have complex knowledge, who don't understand complex issues in finance, can easily use payback period. But it has some disadvantages. It has some, one of the disadvantages is that it doesn't account for time value of money. Ignores time value of money. It ignores time value of money. The number two is that it de-emphasizes I'm sure I'm getting it right. Okay. It de-emphasizes profitability, but it emphasizes profitability at the expense, or let me put this, in favor of speed of cash flow. This is key. Do you know, because you are interested in how fast the cash flow is going to come, there are projects that may have overall profitability that you will drop just because they have slow early cash flow. They are slow starters. Some projects are slow starters. I don't know whether you understand what I mean.
Yes, sir.
Some projects are slow starters, but over time, when they start, they just run. For example, there's an analysis they use in Igbo language. They say something about the wine that comes from the raffia palm and the wine that comes from the palm tree. They say the raffia palm wine rushes fast, and then it doesn't take time, you know, it stops flowing, and then it becomes a dead one. But that the one that comes from the palm tree comes in drops, in trickles, but it lasts for a very long time. I think someone even sang about it. So there are projects that are slow starters. They start slow and they come in trickles at the early stages. But when they mature, it begins to flow ceaselessly. Then if someone's emphasis is on early cash flow, the person will reject that project because at the early stage, the flow is small. I don't know whether you understand what I'm saying. Then it means if you use payback, you are going to reject projects that will be profitable overall, but are slow starters. The emphasis is just on cash flow, but not overall what profitability. So one major disadvantage is that it de-emphasizes profitability in favor of speed of what cash flow. So a project can only be favored if the cash flow is fast. You know, and then the next one is that it doesn't show capacity to measure risk. So where do you factor in risk here? Where is the risk? It's not just enough to say the faster the cash flow, the lower the risk. No. There are other complex ways we can measure risk, like using standard deviation, using the variance of cash flow, using the coefficient of variation, and so on. So the payback period is risk insensitive. It doesn't, is risk insensitive. It does appear that it is risk insensitive. So these are the advantage, the pros and cons in the use of the word payback period method, but it can serve as a screening technique. You can use it as the first technique, first screening technique. So when they cross the payback screening, you now begin to subject it to more rigorous and vigorous appraisal techniques. You know. So that is the much I have to say about the payback. And then that is also probably the much I have to say for tonight's class. In our next contact, we'll be looking at the accounting rate of returns. I almost didn't want to hold this class, but I just had to come because it's been scheduled. So let's leave it here at this point. So in our next contact, I'm going to try as much as I can to at least meet with you again twice this week on corporate finance. Before the end of the week, I'll try and meet with you at least twice on corporate finance because I'm concerned about the much we still have to cover on corporate finance. Let's see how far we can go in pushing them. So, any questions? Did you enjoy the class?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
We
sir.
did, Doc.
Yes, sir.
Please don't say it to make me happy.
Yes, sir. No, it's true, sir. We enjoyed the class.
We do.
It's a very comprehensive class.
You know, Ajia does not hide her feelings, so she would have done that on behalf of the whole class.
Ajia will do well as a labor union leader.
Yes.
I'm feeling sleepy.
So ending the class is consistent with your will.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you so much for being a part of this class. I'll see you some other time.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.
Have a restful night, all of you. Good night.
You too, sir.
Yeah, bye.